What's up, everyone? This video, as the title implies, is going to be about the real reason why religion and churches are dying worldwide, globally, and it's increasing exponentially. Here's the real this video is going to be about the real reason why, and it probably will not be what you think it is. Look, for almost all of human, as far as we can tell, all human history, maybe even pre-human history, religion has been integral to our experience of the world. Okay, like early ancient ancestors who, even as you know, for the most part of most of human history that we know of, had basically the equivalent of like a preschool education when it came to the way what the world is, or what the world is around them. Okay, we may be there are some historians and people who study civilizations and these types of things, anthropologists, who will say that when it comes to our knowledge of the world around us and our ability to function in that world safely, and understand like advanced things about our universe and reality itself, many people, there are a lot of people who speculate that we are essentially in the kindergarten stage for a species. But I'm talking about for most of human history, we were preschoolers in our knowledge of the world around us. People would still look up and see the moon and have no idea what it is. To them, it was a god, right? So religion and religious practices have been an integral part of our species for a long time. It's just how we're wired. And when we don't understand something, we come up with answers in our head, even if don't really have good reasons to believe them, right? But it's almost like we have to have some kind of explanation, because not having an explanation is very uncomfortable for us, So religion and religious institutions have played a major role in this, because religious institutions have provided the framework for all of this to happen, and it ties in, religion really capitalizes on a very human need for bonding and connection with other people, to be in small communities where we've experienced belonging and we're able to care for each other, right? We're a social species. You can see this in many great mammals, higher order mammals leading up to humans on the evolutionary time tree. Our cousins on the evolutionary time tree, we see this need for a social network, social bonding, community. And for most of human history, that was found exclusively through religious institutions that played on this human need for connection and bonding, combined with our natural proclivity to create narratives for how we experience the world, right? To make sense of the world around us. Religion had played on that, and it also played on our need for social bonding, and this is religious institutions in a nutshell. And for a long time, religion was the only way you got that. People would meet together, fellowship together, have a shared experience. They would get shared information from other people. They would expand their knowledge through these community relationships. They would, speaking of like churches, for instance, Christians or Muslims or Jews meet together once a week, typically speaking, even more, practice and shared rituals, and it allowed time for their minds to grow and expand and learn new things and to have new experiences and have this relationship, and also help them understand the world around them. It makes them feel safe. It's like you see this in species. other higher order animals, including mammals, so other social species, flock together for the comfort of the group. Okay, so religion plays on this, and it has played on this, and for most of human history, religion was adequate for getting those needs met. But the problem is, as time has gone on, society has gone on, science have come along on the scene, and we have begun to understand the world around us significantly. Like I said, we're still probably in a kindergarten phase as a species. Now, all of a sudden, those old explanations, those old communities no longer serve, are able to keep up with the new way, the new ways that we have to get those social and informational and relational needs met. And then comes along something called the internet and social media. Now, I remember when I was a pastor, when social media just started coming on the scene, there were people who were talking about how this is going to be the end of church. That this could replace the need for meeting together. Like that was unheard of at the time. You have to understand that. For those of you who are new to the scene, prior to the internet and social media, the idea of replacing the church was a unheard of concept. Like, no, you can't. How can you do that, right? The idea that you could develop do the same things that the church does, but in a digital form without having to leave your home, that was unheard of prior to the internet and social media platforms, even like MySpace. But when this starts to come out, these were conversations that were being had amongst ministers and priests and preachers. How do I know? Because I was one of them. People were talking about this. There would be breakout sessions at pastoral conferences and this kind of stuff on social media and its implications. And this new wave of thinking where people are thinking that they could actually replace meeting together physically in the church. Now, fast forward, the last couple of decades to now all of a sudden we take it for granted, right? We take the internet for granted and how well we are connected now. It wasn't always like that. Like outside of having a phone call with somebody or something like that, you weren't heavily connected to other people. Sometimes the only interaction you had with new people as an adult throughout the week would be at church. And during that church experience or synagogue experience or whatever your particular religion is, or whenever your particular religion met, outside of that, you basically did life just with yourself and your closest kin or relatives, right? This was literally probably 20 or 30 years ago. It wasn't that long ago that this was the case. And so a lot of times as an adult, the only experience you had at getting new information, building in social connection, brand new connections, learning new things, rubbing elbows with people, having fellowship, this kind of stuff. The only time you had those were at church or at the synagogue or wherever your particular religion operated. Okay, we know that. I guess those who worship Thor worship on Thursdays, so that's where we got the word Thor. Thursday. I don't know if that's actually true, but that's what I've heard. So outside of those particular interactions, you never had any of those experiences. Well, now, fast forward to now, you can base the internet and social media, as flawed as they are, I believe have replaced the functions of what religious institutions used to provide. Okay? Think about this. On a typical Sunday morning or Saturday or whatever it is, how your religion connected you to other people, you'd go to a place, you would have very brief, usually shallow interactions with a bunch of people, right? Now put yourself in the mind of somebody in the 1980s or 1990s even, who didn't have this interaction all the time. You have to put yourself in our minds back then. Back then, the only interaction you got sometimes was when you went to church. So you show up for church, you have a couple interesting conversations, usually shallow conversations, you all gather together, you share a shared experience of that included a presentation of information / media / music and entertainment. Okay, you experience these things. That concluded. You rubbed elbows, had a couple more shallow interactions, and then you parted ways. Sometimes, if you got along with somebody particularly well, or you had a good conversation, or something was interesting to you in that conversation, you might invite them. You might say, "Hey, do you want to go grab lunch afterwards, or dinner, or whatever it happened to be after the religious connection occurred, or what this more shallow interaction?" And then, if that went well, you might develop a friend out of that. You might develop a life partner or a spouse. You might have a romantic interest. You might have you might build a cool group, nice little group of a social group, right? And there will be a lot of times, like within the churches I were in, there might be a group of people who met together and played video games, or a group of people who met together and went on hikes or did these types of things. Well, now, because of the internet, you no longer need the church for that. This is exactly what people were talking about in the 80s and 90s as the internet was coming into play. People were imagining a world in which the church was no longer necessary. Well, that is today. Today, the modern day church is Facebook or Twitter, or whatever your social, or YouTube, whatever your social platform is that you connect on online. That is the new modern church. Think about it. What do you do when you turn on except for this modern church is, the one thing I want to point out before I go into that is, this modern church is available to you 24/7, and you get to control all the interactions. So you can at any moment go to church. You can go to your cell phone, on Facebook, social media, Twitter, whatever it is. Now we have Oculus, and we're talking about the metaverse. You get to go into your individualized church, which is your phone. You get to have brief, shallow interactions with a bunch of people, just like you would on a Sunday morning. You get to ingest new information or data, or entertainment, or messages or content. You get to ingest that information, take in new information. You get to hear a sermon. Maybe your sermon is watching funny memes on YouTube, or maybe your sermon is catching up on the news, right? But you're doing this in a community setting through Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, whatever it is. Everything's social now. So you're experiencing this with other people in community, a very shallow community, just like you would on Sunday. And then sometimes, as you're rubbing elbows, you get to know somebody. Maybe somebody likes a bunch of your memes, or you like a lot of their memes. Maybe you guys make connection. Maybe you guys are part of a shared Facebook group, and you guys can connect. Maybe you develop a romantic interest, or a friendship circle, or you guys start a Facebook community. And then from there, that's where the relationships grow out of that. So now, because of the internet and social media, not only are religious institutions losing this foothold, this space that they got to claim complete control over, but now basically so is religion. Religion is also losing out, because instead of a religious institution being in the church, now our phones and our technology and our social platforms that we're on are our new our gathering place. Religion is being replaced with science. Okay, and it has been a process that has been happening since the dawn of humanity. Science has come along every single step of the way, providing answers that religion used to provide, right? So think about this. For Thor, where does lightning come from? For a long time, people thought it was a god named Thor. then science came along and provided better answers. Like, oh no, this is a interaction between electrons and protons or whatever it is. Okay, science is able to create predictive models that utilize these explanations and have predictive power. Okay, and so not only does science provide better answers or actual answers, but they also come with benefits as well, because every time we learn something new about the world around us, we can apply that and create actual real solutions. Which, ironically, if you think about this, we're talking about right now in our society, Elon Musk and Neuralink and other businesses like that are now connecting brains to computers, and this idea that we can synchronize our minds with computer systems and basically merge ourselves with technology. Ironically, it might be religion that's been holding us back from actually the only real chance we ever have of actually achieving immortality or an eternal life through technology, right? Because the thing is that all of the internet, social media, social connections, sites like YouTube, stuff like this, as trivial as they are to us today, these things are as science has always been, and scientific understanding has always been to religion. It's very threatening to religious systems. So that is the reason why the church and religion are dying today. It's because we are actually growing as a species. Like I said, we start off as infants, just like species evolve, so do our minds, and so does our collective consciousness. We evolve over time, and we move from more primitive thoughts and behaviors to more sophisticated. So that is why religion's dying, because science, the internet, and social media. So I'd love to hear what your feedback is on this video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you later.